Okay, so I'm Anita Joglekar, and thank you very much everyone for attending, even though it was a change of venue and short notice. I recently moved here to Santa Barbara about a month ago, and we have a little house on Vista Road, La Vista Road, and it's just discovering how delightful Santa Barbara is. One of the main reasons I moved here was cat. Because I was looking for a place to go to. I was in in San Diego for a while, and I was looking for a place to kind of settle down in California. And I connected with Kat, and she convinced me that this was the place for what we do. And I said I'd heard about Santa Barbara. I'd been here almost 3 times before, and I loved it, but I thought it was a vacation resort, or really a nice, cool place to be in. And then she convinced me that there's 2,000 nonprofits, everybody's busy doing projects of some sort, global projects, and everybody's environmentally conscious, and they wanted to help and do a lot of activities around it. And so I decided to check it out, and I am happy to say that it's true, and I've got networked into an amazing community, such as all of you and more. And finding out that, yes, indeed, this is going to be the right place for Rainmakers to grow. So what is Rainmakers? Rainmakers is an organization I founded a couple of years ago to support the invention process, largely through technology, but green and clean energy technology, because I feel we have reached a point where this is the most pressing need on the planet today. And so we started off 2 years ago with supporting inventors who were working in clean and green energy technology. Soon it grew into water technology, because that's another huge need on the planet today. And then we got into all kinds of things, food and water, energy, clean air, etc. But the most fascinating thing, or the most, to me, satisfying transition has been that we have been able to use the energy technologies that our inventors and our scientists develop to help more than just the environment. I mean, we are now helping large humanitarian projects with technology, because the old model was pour money into an organization and then help them. I mean, donate money, food, whatever, clothes, books, etc. So our model is to promote sustainability through technology. And so we actually are now, Rainmakers is now developing technologies through our inventors, which can directly be placed in humanitarian projects, environmental projects, job creation projects, as well as we're creating sustainable communities. And a large part of this development work is now happening in Africa. So why Africa? Because they're the ones who started showing up the most. It's, I mean, we were thinking, I'm from India, so I was thinking, yes, we can do projects in India, but India seems to be on a totally different track right now, globally. And so what is showing up is requests from Africa. And it's very interesting. Life started in Africa, and now we're going to hopefully create a whole technology base in Africa, which will then create a model for the West to look at how alternative energy has been embraced, energy, water, everything has been so well embraced in Africa, and then they will be able to come back and say, we want to do the same. Because one of the things we found with supporting our inventors at the outset, I will introduce my son to you. This is Sunil. He is one of our first energy technology developers. He has developed a solar technology, which he will talk about in a minute. But it is people like him. He's 25 years old. He was 22 or he was 23 when he developed his solar technology. It's inventors like that who have a big heart and a great grasp on what they're doing and why they want to do this, who have presented themselves for help. And we decided that, yes, we want to create a world where everybody expresses their talent, and this is another way of expressing your talent is through technology to help the world. And it's not just to help themselves, but it's also to help the world. So it became a sustainable model, because we feel that through technology we can not only create amazing technologies, but they can then go and help kickstart production. For instance, one of Sunil's projects is working in Nigeria, where he is going to provide 1 gigawatt of power, which is worth $1 billion. He's already got a sales contract to sell $1 billion worth of solar panels to a private utility company in Nigeria, which will then distribute it to factories and malls and villages and orphanages and schools and whatever. And eventually his technology will be made in Nigeria.
That must have blown your mind.
Yeah.
45 years old.
Exactly. So these are the kind of people we are supporting. These are our inventors of the future, and they're actually here now. And there's millions of them. And there's really no organization that addresses their needs and makes it happen. So we're all about making this happen for them, making it happen for technology, and then placing these technologies for maximum impact in various projects. Now, all of you have amazing projects worldwide. And I had the honor to listen to, or I had the privilege to listen to Chid Liberty the other day. And he has this amazing sewing project which he has started in Liberia. So, it's projects like that that need the power. Because I asked him a question at his session. I said, you have this big sewing project which relies on so many women sewing clothes and other garments. And what do you do for power? And he said, well, power is unreliable, so they rely on generators. So I told him that we have a solution for you. You will not have to rely on generators because we can provide you with solar, wind, etc. So we are actually right now focused on energy and water, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So the energy technologies we have today are solar. We have 3 different kinds of solar. We have a rooftop wind generator which can work in 2 kilometers wind speed. So you don't need huge amounts of wind. It's a little, it's like a house air conditioning unit which sits flat on a rooftop. So you don't have those big blades and noise or anything like that. We're also working with another inventor who has a battery which is, has 72 hours of continuous discharge. And it can hold a charge for 15 days so it doesn't lose a charge. But 72 hours is huge because most batteries are out of power in 4 hours, We're working with another green fuel company, a green diesel. So they're making, fuel from cooking oil, which most of Africa, just like India, loves fried food, and they use a lot of cooking oil. So this can be another thing that we can provide is make fuel for diesel. It's only for diesel engines. But that comes out of cooking oil and you source it for free. So really the cost is only in the equipment. That's another one we are working with. We have several water technologies, including sourcing water from the ground. And this is not groundwater. This is a revolutionary technology where it's something called primary water. And primary water is what the earth actually produces in the process of inside its core. And there's millions of gallons made every single day, which sometimes travel up through crevices in the crust of the earth, and you can source it. And we have a team that's actually digging wells in Africa, finding primary water. You have to dig much deeper than normal wells. It's like over 500 feet.
Water's coming up from
the earth,
from deep
inside the earth. Yes, from the core.
It's being created down there.
It is. Yeah, it's a process of whatever the chemical process in there. So they're able to source this water, and we're actually, developing wells. They're digging wells in India, in Africa, using this process. There's that. There's another technology which can create water out of air. It's like a dehumidifier, I guess, but it can work in the desert. So there's so many options. We have a project for greening the desert. Using another one of our technology developers. He's an agro-technology developer. So he has these plants, or it's actually trees, which complete their life cycle, or they grow to full length or full height in 7 years. And they're amazing because they change the pH balance of the soil, so they can be planted in the desert once you've got stuff irrigated using primary water or whatever. So there's numerous things coming along which can be implemented almost anywhere in the world. That's as far as the technologies go. We're working with so many different projects. all over the world. But right now, the most exciting project we have is we've partnered with an organization that's building sustainable communities in Africa. The sustainable community concept is simple. They take a tract of land and develop it for industrial use. So we will put in our energy technologies there, energy and water technologies, which are all integrated with each other. For instance, the byproduct of one of those processes will be the raw material for somebody else. Like we have a wastewater treatment plant which is producing hydrogen and oxygen. So the hydrogen and oxygen can easily be sold as income streams, but we can also use that hydrogen to power up something else. So that's how everything is dovetailed. So for instance, solar can be used to run the wastewater treatment plant and a water filtration process that we have, because they're both using electrolysis, which doesn't use a huge amount of electricity. So that's the kind of integrative approach we have for our technologies, and we're placing them in these communities to provide turnkey solutions. Once the energy base is in there, this is creating an infrastructure with energy and water, then the local industries will come in and the manufacturing will get kick-started. So there's huge power shortages in Africa, there's huge power shortages in India. India was without power for 2 days and 600 million people had no power. And India is far more developed than some of the African nations, has a much larger population base, and they ran out of power. So power is a huge, electricity or power is a huge commodity right now, which is completely not there. It's just not. It's huge shortages. So we hope to create the infrastructure in energy using our solar, wind, hydrogen, battery, all kinds of different technologies coming in, which will create the infrastructure for energy. Bring in other industries which will then use this energy to kickstart production. That will create huge base of employment for people in the country. Also the energy can be deployed to other regions where, like malls and movie theaters, whatever, everything gets kick-started. Once that's in place, housing will be built, education comes in, healthcare comes in. And so this becomes a fully sustainable modern community with agriculture in there as well. We have some agricultural technologies which are also using solar, like solar pumps for irrigation, etc. So this is our most exciting project that's being kick-started in Uganda, primarily in 4 regions in Uganda, but we also have contracts with Kenya, Tanzania, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, and South Africa. And these are all these have been signed at the highest level with the presidents and prime ministers involved, and the UN, the World Bank, and the funding has been raised, but it's going to be in phases. So the first phase is going to be Uganda. There's also a campus which is being set up here in Florida as a model community, where the same thing will be implemented through creating a base of energy industries, then bringing in the education. So what we're doing there in Florida is we're bringing in college students from around different colleges worldwide, but starting with the US. And they will come in as interns into all these companies that are placed in these energy colonies or in these sustainable colonies. And these interns, once they graduate, will be the trainers for the workforce in Uganda. So for instance, when the solar company gets set up in the community in Uganda, the guys who will go there to train the workers will be the interns from Florida. So who've already graduated and who've learned the whole technique. So it's a hands-on process. It's a hands-on, but we also want to encourage innovation. We're also setting up some youth conferences around the world, which will again, get the youth involved. It's called the Youth Chamber of Commerce, actually. So they will get involved in commerce, they will get involved in industry at a very young age, and get trained and have the opportunity to do internships, etc. So this is what we do, and I would like to continue this as a discussion instead of my talking, and I would really like to know if any of you see a fit in what we're doing by providing you with the technology infrastructure so that we can be of further use and assistance to your organizations, because I think bottom line, every organization would like to have the energy and clean water and clean food and etc. Yes.
I just have a question.
Yes.
So some of the technology you like to encourage young people, as you're encouraging your son, where do you envision getting these young people to get their ideas?
Oh, the young people to get there, they already have the ideas. A lot of them
But
have
you're
the ideas.
hooking it where you, like you obviously knew your son.
Yeah.
But where else are you going to get these ideas?
Okay, so we put it out there through website. I talk to people, and honestly, people show up because the word is out there. I get every single day. I get like maybe 20 emails saying, we want to find out what we can do with our technology.
Because I'm wondering if it's American based or
No,
if it's worldwide.
It's worldwide. It's worldwide.
Because
It's global.
there is also in Uganda a
Mhm.
very interesting organization that I've been receiving. I've never visited it, but I've been receiving emails from them called Educate.
Okay.
And they are all about encouraging young people like your son to be innovative.
Beautiful.
So you might want to check out their website.
Beautiful. Another thing we've done, and I forgot to mention one thing, is we also provide funding. So as a base to create innovation or to help innovation, we do this in several ways. We help with funding. We fund projects either through our own organization or through partner investors. We've successfully funded about 6 projects worth several $100 million. We funded a nonprofit school which is based in Canada. Their whole focus is on innovation and creative education, experiential education. But the most interesting part is they have a virtual concept. So they're going to have a global school, virtually have a global school. So they're going to be giving out information and classes from their base in Canada, and they're also going to have set up a campus here in California somewhere. But from here then, this education will go all over the world virtually. And they've got a system where even the language is translated appropriately. So, kids can, they might be educating in English from here, but the kids in Africa might be listening to it in Swahili. Or the kids in India might be listening to it in Hindi. So that's what they've got that figured out. And we did fund this school, it's a nonprofit. So they're going to have not only a focus on innovation, but some of our inventors are going to be working with the kids hands-on, one-on-one, so that they learn about the innovation process, they get into labs and do hands-on things, and that can also be sent virtually. So that we love this model. So those are some of the things, but yes, I would really like to know more, because that's what we are. We are a collaboration of different organizations. My son's company, it's Nava Solar, and he's going to talk about his thing in a second. We are working with 15 or 20 other companies who develop the technology, and we simply help them place these technologies in different global markets and humanitarian projects. It's a win-win, because startups usually, even when they get all the money and they go into production and they're doing fine, then they have to get into the real world and start competing with China and start competing with all these other large manufacturers. And a lot of them fold up at that point because they cannot compete here. The other problem is alternative energy has not been fully embraced in the US or in Canada, because we still have this big infrastructure of coal and nuclear and whatever, and it's so much cheaper and everybody just keeps falling back on it. So how do you compete? How do you compete in a market like this? Well, you don't. You go out, go where there's a huge shortage and they are ready to embrace your technology, because they just can't keep up. I mean, look at India. They have everything. They have coal, nuclear, hydro, and they don't have enough power. They have 8-hour brownouts every day, which is a compulsory shutdown of power because they just don't have enough power. They just don't have the power. So you go to a place like that, you go to a place like Africa, which is virgin and has huge shortages of power. You have them embrace your technology there, and then you create a model of sustainability which the whole world can see. And the market outside the US is so much huger than the market in the US and Canada that we just changed the focus a little bit and said, go out there. And you know, the typical mentality of inventors that I used to speak to before was, oh, you know, they can't afford our technology, so why should we go there? But you know what? They may not be able to afford it, but there are humanitarian organizations that support them, that afford them. The UN supports them. Their governments pay for it. So there's always a market. And so that's the model we followed. And it's been very successful. So that's one of the things we do. Yeah.
In Uganda, you mentioned that you guys buy land, and then you're trying to move the companies there to kind of create a community. Is that what you're doing in all 4 of the locations you're in?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, it's going to be the same model in all the countries we're going to be in Africa. So that the land is bought using funds. Actually, some of it is we got funds from the World Bank and the UN to do this, and some of it was given to us to use by the Ugandan government. Because these negotiations have happened at a very high level, and so you know the land has been made available. Now some of it was bought using the funds that we got from the UN. But
What are the 4 locations?
I don't really know right now, so they're kind of a little bit under wraps because they haven't finalized the actual locations.
Oh.
But they are going to be clustered around big cities. So right now, and then eventually we'll move out into the rural areas. But right now, because the first infrastructure has to be set up using their infrastructure, so it's going to be around a big city. And then once the panels are available in India, in Africa, either panels or other sources of energy will be able to completely be off-grid and go out into the rural areas. Yeah.
So you are the CEO of Rainmakers, correct?
Yes.
Does that mean that the corporation is based here in Santa Barbara? And can you tell us a little bit about the organization and the number of people you have involved?
Sure. So we have, right now, the organization is in Santa Barbara. The company was actually incorporated in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But the organization is based wherever I am. Mm-hmm. So I'm in Santa Barbara right now, so it's here. But it really is a global company.
Right.
We have, and the concept of this corporation is very different from a normal corporation, which is a fixed number of people and an office space and whatever. We have a virtual presence. We will always have a virtual presence. We're going to be a global company. We will have offices all over the world. We have inventors right now all over the world. They are a part of our team. Even though they are all independent companies, they own their own companies. We do not own any part of their companies because even if we provide them funding, we do not own their company. Mm-hmm. So that's always going to be the concept, but it's going to be a series of collaborations between inventors, investors, markets, humanitarian projects, and our core team. And our core team is also growing. We have a few of us here right now in this room, Robert Young and Barbara, and there's another part of the team is in Ojai, and Sunil, my son, is an independent company owner, but he's associated with us. So that's how our team is. It's evolving, it's growing, and it's global.
Marvelous.
It's yes.
Yeah, well, very interesting. I have lots of questions, but perhaps the way I want to start, I'm really interested. And I might not have understood completely. You talked about that you're in the process of creating model communities, mm-hmm. and perhaps just say are these agricultural communities? How do people move there? Are they invited to move there? Do they volunteer? Do they move from far away? Because I'm a historian in some ways, I'm historians of development. And the history of development, there have been lots of attempts to create model communities as a kind of a form of innovation. So I'm really curious how you're approaching that, who your local collaborators are on the ground. Is that the government? Is that regional government? And how do you recruit the people to live there? And if you perhaps could just say a little bit more that it's clear. Yeah.
Sure. So first of all, it's all of the above. In that the community will be built on, first of all, land that's some of it is gifted by the government of that country, some of it is acquired by us depending on where we want to build the community. The people who will populate this community will essentially first come from outside, you know, because there are these energy infrastructure that we're going to set up. So the solar companies and the wind and the battery and, you know, all those guys will be there. So they'll come in and set up their own companies, they'll set up their own factories. Now once you do that, you need people to work in that. So those people will be recruited locally. Some people will, the trainers will come from overseas. As I said, we'll be training the trainers through our internship programs in the campus in Florida. They will then go out and be the trainers for the local workforce. To start with, we will not have very complex operations in these countries because, you know, the infrastructure or the training or the skill sets of the local people doesn't match what is being made here. So to start with, it might be that, for instance, the panels will be built in Uganda. They will be assembled and they will be installed in Uganda. But the actual, you know, the technology, the ink, the cells will be made here in the US to start with. Now, my son's process, it's a solar process, he's going to explain this to you in 10 seconds, I promise.
Okay.
His is a low-cost solar process which doesn't require clean room access. So which means it frees him up to make it anywhere. You don't need this $1 million clean room to build his thing. You can do it in a wet lab, in an ordinary chemistry lab. So eventually, once you've got the skill set of the people, you know, to a point where they're able to participate in building the solar cells, this can totally be built elsewhere. Not the other technologies. Some of them have to be made here. Some parts will be made here, but they will be a large component. But that's just the infrastructure. That's just setting up the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure is in, we're not there just to make panels. We're there to then help implement these energy technologies into the next generation or the local industries. And they don't even have to be in the community. They can be elsewhere and they can buy the panels or the wind generators or whatever. But we want to migrate some of the local companies into the community, and they can be doing anything. For instance, I invited Chid Liberty to set up his sewing factory in our community in Liberia. I mean, it's a given. You know, we have the energy. He needs the energy for setting up his sewing factory. He can migrate to the colony, to the community, and set it up. And what a beautiful example, because then the workers will migrate closer. We'll build a campus for them. There'll be food, so you know the food technologies will go in, and I'm not talking GMO, we're talking non-GMO, and we're talking clean food, and we're talking organic food, and hydroponic, and algae growth, and you know sorghum and stuff like that. There's also an ethanol plant that's going to be based on sorghum. So those will then come up. There'll be water technologies to support clean water and do all that. The schools will come in. We'll have a school to train the locals. There'll be schools to for the workers' children to go to. So that's how it's going to organically grow, just by putting in the first infrastructure, which is energy and water. And then everything else will start coming in to feed off of that. So that's really the concept. And then there'll be culture, and there'll be education and tourism, and you know all that will kind of grow from that. Healthcare also.
How much land are you looking at?
The 4 regions in Uganda that we've slated are going to be, and the exact location isn't picked yet, but they're going to be 400 acres each to start with an option to buy more land.
Can we hear about the solar project?
Yes,
Yeah.
to it, when the donor base dried up, so did the project. So, you know, with technology, we want to set the example of everybody is able to, you know, earn as much money as they want to and as much money as they can. So, yeah, we're a for-profit. Yeah.
I don't want to change the subject, but I am. I'm just curious, with people like Sunil and other inventors that came up against that wall and weren't able to get to the venture capitalists and sell their products or get financial support, what did you do differently than what all the inventors have done to get where you are with your company?
So what we did differently is we provided resources to our inventors, no matter whether they had money or not.
No, I realize that.
Yeah.
But how did you convince whoever you had
Oh, the
to convince?
investors?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a little bit
Because
of
he wasn't able to, right? And he
no,
had the product.
and I wasn't able to either. I mean, because I was following the wrong track. We were going to venture capitalists and banks, and we wrote proposals for grants and all that, and all that takes very long. I mean, sometimes they sit on it for 2-3 years and then they tell you you haven't been approved. So I was lucky enough because I have been a businesswoman for a long time. I owned a travel business for 21 years. It was very successful. I funded everything myself. I never went to any investors for that. But because I was in business and I traveled all over the world, I met a lot of people. I networked endlessly. And I had connections in many countries with all kinds of people. And so when I came upon this, I said, look, I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, we're not going to give you the money, we're not going to give you the money. Somebody's got the money, and I just need to connect with them. So through various networking events, and not really events, but personal contacts, I came across a group of people that said, yeah, we'll fund your projects. We're looking for projects like that. And my focus has always been on sustainability and humanitarian projects. Even when I was doing travel, I was doing sustainable and ecotourism. A lot of it was for humanitarian benefit. So I had, networked, or I had inroads into those communities, and I had inroads into people who believed in projects like that. And I came upon a whole group of people that not only appreciated that, but did only that. So they support any kind of a project. It doesn't have to be a technology project. Like we had the school funded through the same group of people. They will support projects which are doing humanitarian work, but which also have a large job creation, and they are sustainable. So it's not just about giving aid and then having them just use the money and not do anything themselves. So those are the kind of people that I was fortunate enough to connect with. Not everybody does, but that's the reason why I founded Rainmakers. It's because everybody doesn't have access to capital like that. And I want to make this available to everybody who has a dream and who can make this happen and who can make a huge difference in the world. And that's why it's Rainmakers. It's a virtual community where it's going to be a community, global community, which is going to talk to each other, and we're going to have lots of events, even virtual events, where people can come together. But the most important thing is get projects funded, whether they are at a high school level or a college level or whatever level. Everybody has an amazing idea, and the idea is to get them funded so that they happen.
So what's the criteria for your company to decide what inventions can get the funding?
Okay, so we have a technology panel that will look at your project and say, yes, this is going to work or this is not going to work. We also have interviews with the inventors, either on Skype. Usually they're just on Skype right now because they're all scattered. They can be in person. Robert sits in on the panel. He's one of our chief panelists for the technology. And he's able to tell us, whether this technology has potential or not. We also conduct a lot of interviews with the inventor himself to see if there's something that he needs to make it happen, and then we get him mentored or him or her mentored. Sometimes they're just pie in the sky. They are. I mean, they've got everything. Sometimes they're just missing one or two things, and we help them, get linked with the right people. But sometimes they're just a pie in the sky, and then we help them crystallize their idea and see if it goes anywhere. That's going to happen later. I mean, right now we're so focused on getting the technologies we have out there funded, made, making a difference, that later on we'll be doing exactly that. We'll be setting up centers where people can go and study innovation, or they'll get into labs with some of our more seasoned inventors and mentors and get the training they need to make it happen. But yeah, so there are criteria, of course, especially if it's technology. But it's not all about technology. There are film projects that are coming along, which we're going to be supporting. There's a film project that's artists for the environment. So we're going to support that. And this person is in the process of writing a proposal for that. There's another TV series. It's an internet TV series where each episode is going to deal with a different environmental dilemma. And so we're going to support that. So there's all kinds of different projects. As long as they are on our radar. They are under the umbrella of what we do, which is environmental, humanitarian, technological advancement for environmental benefit. We will support them. Like we funded the school, which was a nonprofit, and it's not exactly an invention school, but it's a revolutionary. It's a completely new idea, a new way of imparting education. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yes.
I have a question about your sustainable communities, and if you've worked with anybody that has worked with paving the roads too, because
paving the roads? Not really, but I'd love to know more about it. Yeah.
No, well, just
Amen.
thinking, yeah.
There's a particular one.
Right. No, just thinking if you want to encourage more people to come to the communities and to set up manufacturing, the first thing is paved roads so that they have easy access to exporting their materials through whatever port that they're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
So I was with, I worked at Shid Liberty's project a year and a half ago, and they're opening up we were shopping for warehouses.
Right.
So we needed paved roads, and that's what they were looking at. That's why they chose the locations that they were, because of a lot of other factors, but just little things like this are,
Well, the community itself is going to be state of the art. So they're going to construct, everything top notch over there. This is not exactly, when it trickles down, it's not going to be the same. But since it's a model community, the roads will be excellent within the community. Now, I don't know what the roads are going to be like, which the government builds to get to the community.
It all depends if there
Probably
is
no roads.
somebody in the king's family
That's
or
right,
the
you need
political
somebody up
president's
top.
family that lives in that area.
Right. But it's going to be an export, what do you call it, and not free, but an export preferred zone, and all that. So we've got all the permissions to do all that. Now, we don't want to go overboard on that, because that totally makes it non-sustainable, when you take it out into another area. But initially, to start with, I think, that will be an incentive for companies to move in there.
Just the comment, I think, in some ways, I think she raises a key point that, of course, roads, it's infrastructure, and it shows that any kind of, ideas like yours, it really depends that you have a local collaborator or government.
Yes, we do.
Who are
right,
who are interested in your project, and then will assure that the access road to the model community is being maintained and is actually accessible.
Yeah. See, the problem with Africa and India and places is everybody gets really happy, and they're all hyped up, and they say, yes, we'll do this, and so many $1 billion are flowing in from the UN, and they build the state-of-the-art facility and all that, and then the government changes, and then things start falling apart, and then nothing gets maintained. So what we want to do when we go in there and is to build enough momentum within the community itself that we will be able to generate our own funds to maintain what's going on there without having to rely on the government sanctioning any more money, because that's really going to be critical. I mean, yes, the government will be around for 4 or 5 years. If they lose the election, then you have a new government which wants to pull down everything the first government built. So that's why we want to create that whole, kind of a mini economy in like the first few years.
I forgot your name. What is your name?
Stefan.
Stefan?
Yes.
Well, you rose an interesting point early on, because, and I'm certainly not an expert on Africa, but I spent a lot of time in Uganda last summer and 2 summers ago. And it's a very tribal area. So every time you go from one community, you learn hello, goodbye, thank you, whatever. By the time you get to the next community, you're already saying it wrong. It's got, 72 different dialects in the country, maybe more. And so they're very, they're lovely people, but they're very connected with their tribes. And so when you have this idea of building a community, it would be perhaps difficult to bring in someone from this region and plop them into another region, because
but they're building
that's
around
not
big cities.
their tribe.
Yeah, they're going to be around
If you build it around the big city, maybe that meshes
more.
Yeah, initially it will be around
Yeah.
big cities because we are going to rely on the grid, we're going to rely on the existing infrastructure, even to build the community. I mean, we
Yeah.
won't have anything set up till the community is built and they start making the panels or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, initially they will be, and later on I think the concept is to not put a whole community in a village. I mean, that's too futuristic for a village. But small technologies will trickle down, like the water filtration may trickle down. You know, we put a plant there for filtering, and it's not, they have these village or these even home units, the water filtration people, not filtration, the purification people we're working with. So they can be operated by bicycle pumps and, you know, stuff like that. So it's like very rural, very off-grid.
But training the local people of that tribe is what I was saying.
That's not going to happen.
It's
not right now. No, because you know, we would need engineers or, you know, something equivalent to that to work in the factories. So it's going to be around big cities for the technology.
Yeah.
But to implement a water filtration or a water purification device in a village and train up a few people to maintain and look after it, that's another story. That's what we will do there, because they've actually developed a model for paddy fields in China, where water is actually drawn from the paddy fields because the paddy is full of water. So they draw the water, it's a bicycle pump, so they pull the water out from that, they run it through the whole thing using solar for the electrolysis process. And then, you know, it's stored in these big plastic, you know, big huge containers, and then they just come and fill the water from there.
Because they have rice fields there too, so.
Yeah, so we can use the same thing there. Yeah, but that's just a device, you know, to purify water. It's not going to be to train them to make the water filtration. Yeah, and you know, maybe once they go to school and all that, they can build that. So that'll come too. Yeah, but it's like a trickle down. It's going to be eventually.
Well, we might have you all come back again, because when I look at it, we only had a third of our group, probably because of the holiday and
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the time of the year. But it's so fascinating what you're doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely impressive, both of you. And
Aren't we all just envisioning
Yes.
each of our own little communities?
Yes.
Wow, what if they had unlimited, you know,
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
support,
And
you
this
know,
is-
water and
Yeah.
Exactly.
electricity.
This is what I want to offer you, your different organizations, is we can provide you with all this support with technology. Right now with technology and, you know, maybe people and ideas and, you know, whatever help, even funding. We can even provide you with funding to get some of your projects kickstarted.
Do you have to own the land that you're building these communities on, or can land be lended to you to create the?
Which means for our sustainable communities?
Yeah.
No, we don't own the land because we're
So it's
you know,
just land that's lended.
it's
Or
government land.
government
It's
land.
owned by the government. Or you know,
By-
there'll be a JV between the government and the people who will be you know, partnering to build that community there. And so that's a joint venture. And so we being, you know, from America will not be owning any land in Uganda anyway. But there'll be a corporation, a Ugandan corporation, and partly the government or UN or whatever their requirements are, who will own that.
Okay, so for example, if we wanted to do something with the Maasai environment, they own the land, and they said, you know, they're barren nothing anyway, so, or with Bill's organization in Chad, or any of ours, for if there was a plot of land, would you consider, would your organization or company consider making that a community?
Oh yeah, we would love to. I mean, it would be a much different level kind of a community because it's totally off-grid, I imagine. And you know, we can
Most of us are all rural.
and we can help you with your school as well, you know, by giving you water and panels or whatever you need. But I would really love to work with the refugee community as well. And I don't know, I was told that we're not allowed to go into the refugee communities to set up infrastructure. But you know, part of the problem with refugee communities is that they just don't have the infrastructure. And so if we can provide them with the technology to provide the infrastructure, to build the infrastructure with clean water and you know, electricity or whatever, that would be something tremendous, and we do it as an outreach.
Now, if you had portable refugee community
A
civilizations.
A trailer?
Yeah, well, because
refugee
you don't want to
community.
sustain a refugee community and make it a
No,
city. You know,
no,
you want
no,
it to
but-
disperse eventually. So
But we could
there's a
give
challenge.
them, we could create jobs there. Because see, part of the problem is they're not allowed to go into the country because they are in this whole refugee land, and they can't really seek, you know, active employment. But we could go in there and you know, put something up where they can actually have, you know,
Water and
employment, even
little
employment.
community.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk.
No, but that's totally doable. We can set up a plot of land. And,
Refugee camp, so.
yeah, we can totally help you with setting up a community, a small scale community. Yeah.
Anita, did you just want to briefly show them the website?
Yes. So we have a new website. I don't know if any of you tried to find the older site, which was a bit of a joke. And this was developed by our team, part of the team that lives in Ojai.
Brought in, so at the end of the boat. Brought along the end.
You have to go into our.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So. So these are the icons. We start with, this is our vision. Do you want me to read that out?
What is the website?
It's called rainmakersworldwide.com. And I have my cards here, so please pick one up.
We've got 5 or 10 more minutes.
Okay. So then I'll just let everybody, you know, look at the website at their own convenience. This lists all the technologies we're working, some of the technologies we're working with right now, which is the energy technologies. Under that, we have 3 different solar technologies. We have a wind energy technology, which is the rooftop wind generator. We have a high-powered energy storage device. We have green fuel. And then for water and agriculture, we have numerous devices, numerous technologies for purification, wastewater treatment, sourcing pure water from the ground and the environment, which I just mentioned, the primary water. And they're in all various stages of development. We have some agricultural technologies, the forestation projects, as well as the solar powered pump. Then these are all the projects we are working with right now. The first one is the Nigerian energy project, which is going to create so many thousands of jobs and, you know, provide power to hospitals, schools, and villages, etc. We also have a West Africa Grassroots Entrepreneurship initiative, which has come from one of our companies that we are in the process of funding. And their model is to either donate or to purchase and you know, have the farmers purchase. They're working with subsistence farmers. And they want to give them very grassroots level technology, like small pumps, and because they're working in Nigeria and Ghana. And the acreage is very small, so they own under a less than an acre typically. So they don't need high-powered pumps and stuff. But their model is to provide 1 or 2 pumps to the farmers, and then once they generate an income from the crop that they're producing, the model is for that farmer to turn around and donate to 2 other farmers. So that's pay
like
forward. It's like the goats. It's like the pay forward thing with technology. And so we're partnering with them to give them, you know, simple technologies, not very high powered ones. That's the Peace School I spoke about, the Canadian school. There's also a Panama organic fair trade coffee plantation where Sunil's company is going to be providing them on an outreach basis with enough panels for their workers' quarters, because it gets pretty hot there, and so they want to provide air conditioning for their workers it's an organic fair trade plantation. So that's the solar panel there. Then we talked at length about the sustainable community initiatives in various countries in Africa. We're also partnered with the organization in Florida to do youth chambers of commerce worldwide. And again, this encourages the training or the growth of entrepreneurship right from high school level. And you know, they can be selling anything. It can be a lemonade stand, but they need to learn about entrepreneurship. So that's the focus on that. And then we are going to partner with them with providing innovation training and invention training, bringing them into our labs and stuff like that to, you know, give them that know-how. And there'll be youth conferences throughout the world, which, you know, I'm going to be organizing with our partners in Florida to bring people in, and these will be conducted all over the world, to bring people in for a whole week, to meet each other, to learn about different things. There'll be science exhibits and there'll be competitions and all kinds of things. Then we have the Center in the Campus of Sustainable Living in Florida. That's the other one, which is going to be based in the US, where college students from around the world, but initially from within the country, will be brought in to intern with the companies that are set up in the park. So those are the projects. These are some investment and funding options that we talk about. We haven't put anything up there yet. And then get involved. You know, we want a lot of people to get involved, even if it's just feedback, or you want to join our team, or you want to collaborate in some way. I would love to partner with a lot of projects in Africa, because we're going to be there. We're going to have a huge presence in Africa. And if we are in that country building a sustainable community, we would love to help your projects out there as well. So, and then I have my contact information.
So click on your little movie and just let's see the raindrops. Anywhere on the blue.
And let it rain
Yes.
tomorrow afternoon.
Thanks for reminding us.
Yeah,
Of
there you
teachers
go.
There.
stuck inside with their children.
Those are the raindrops rippling all over the world. That's the concept. And our web designer in Ohio, I mean, she's not exactly a web designer. She does this also. She's an amazing young lady. She's 24 years old, another young genius. She did this literally overnight.
And look, ripples are penetrating out through
Exactly.
the world, and
Exactly.
you've got imagery, and it's
Exactly. That was
metaphorically
the concept.
sound.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have sound soon. This was developed in 24 hours.